The charts are looking good.
Yo, 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 amigos. Welcome back to another podcast with the fellas. Hey, Nick, thanks for joining us. We know you're on a little bit of a trip.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that as always. And GP, the illustrious Gotham is in the house. Hi, GP.
What's up?
What's going on?
Today's
How is everybody this grand first day of spring?
the
We're
first day.
good.
It's the first day of spring.
Okay,
You know, I only bring the facts.
fair.
We had some
I
snow
mean, it
this
felt like it out there.
It felt like spring in Colorado.
Yeah, skiing like it got after the lunch, man. It got warm up there.
We had a little snow this morning and it's a little icy, kind of like the market. Started a little down, came a little up, right? I think. Is that
Yeah,
accurate? But no, it's I think one thing that we maybe not gloss over, but probably haven't paid as much attention to is Bitcoin of late. And since the last time we talked, Bitcoin touched what was that high? 73.8. And now back below 60, well, 62.1 now. And the three of us for, I don't know, months on end have kind of defined Bitcoin as our risk on thing to watch. But we're on a little dumpy side right now. In the last week, we're down 10% on the old BTC. So I don't know, guys. We got FOMC tomorrow. Bitcoin's pulling back, which it can pull back quite a ways, I think. Um, I don't know. Where are your
Yeah.
guys' heads at right now?
Um, I mean, it's extended, so like it could easily pull back more and still look good in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
So it's like not. Um, I mean, to me, it's not too overly concerning. It does kind of like it does have a little bit of like a head and shoulders look, like on the daily. I try not
Yep.
to.
You go look at that 4 hour. I
Try not
just I
to.
just printed it up there. There's your 4 hour chart.
Yeah, so I mean, the measured move on that would be what down to I don't know. I could easily retest that previous breakout. 45 to like let's just say 50,000.
Yeah, it's like 52, something like that.
ideally, I would want it holding 59.5, 59.4, and below that, it gets quite suspect in my opinion because that's taken out last couple of weeks lows. Um, if that happens, then yeah, then I can see the 51,000 area coming to fruition. I don't know. It's normal to have 20% ranges once it gets to the all-time highs. So I would like to see it stay in that kind of 20% range. So from what is that? From 74,000, that gets you to 59.5 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm putting my bear suit on, we could absolutely come into this 57, 56 range right above the 9 weekly. I don't know that we're going to get that, but it's anything's possible. I wouldn't be off of it at 59 GP, but yeah, if it came into the 9 weekly, that would be a little much. And of course, if you got down to the 9 monthly, we're talking 40 grand. That would be quite the drop, and I don't think anybody wants to be part of holding from here down to 40 grand.
Yeah.
No, Ethereum pulled back pretty hard.
Yeah, that everything pulled back. Um, Dot, which looked great, Polkadot and Link, they're pulling back. I mean, all of them are. I think the only one that's not pulling back that I've been watching is Aptos, APT, and Solana has given a lot back too, but APT has been a good one. Um, but yeah, Bitcoin's under a little bit of pressure. Under a little bit of pressure here. I think depending on what happens with FOMC tomorrow, it could be very classic shake and bake higher. I think we still might dip in lower before FOMC, but we'll see.
Yeah.
The chart tells me that 59's a great spot GP though, and 55, 56 is kind of my last straw.
I just don't want it to. If it wicks off, they're fine, but
Yeah,
I need that to hold the 59.5 if I want it to be considered a breakout retest, so to speak. Other than that, it just gets, not saying that it's broken, it just gets,
ugly.
it gets a little too deep, right? And then you're gonna need to work to, if it gets to that 45, 50, I don't know if I'd want to actually be a part of it anymore,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So,
that's totally fair.
and because that's what, a 50% correction off this kind of move, and that would be too deep, Nick, in my opinion. You
Yeah.
want strong things to stay strong. A 50% correction wouldn't indicate strength. At 23 to 38, retracement would probably be the area where you'd want it to hold. But on something that took 2.5, a little over 2 years to come back to all-time highs, you'd want it to hold close to the all-time highs, like a 20% range, in my opinion. But that's me.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I
that'd be
brought
definitely ideal.
I
Yeah,
brought this
I
up.
think you've said it, Nick, right? Like if things test the breakout fast, then it's probably not going to hold, right? You don't want it to test the breakout immediately. That's not a position of strength. Like when something gaps up and it immediately fills the gap, that's not strength, right? That's selling. So
Yeah.
it's a similar concept here. It's like you want it to hold certain levels because that's what shows strength. And if it's not, then doesn't mean it can't consolidate and strengthen later, but in the short term, that weakness will snowball into, you know, more people coming in to sell.
And like I mentioned last week, we're a month out roughly from the halving. And I don't know. I mentioned it's different this time because we've had this massive run up beforehand, and part of that is probably because all the ETFs and the financial institutions actually are heavy in Bitcoin now. So that's one thing that's different, but the timing has been off. And I mean, if you look at every halving chart, roughly a few weeks to a month out from halving, that's when you start seeing moves higher. So, I mean, if we just use this as, we're October basically till now. I mean, we've already moved up. Well, I'm having problems with my mouse. We moved up to 154% at the highs, right? So that's quite a move before halvings even happened. I mean, we're up nearly 114% now, but um, we'll see. It's interesting, and I haven't quite figured out what to make of that just yet.
Yeah. But
Anywho,
maybe it's
what does
leading
this mean
us.
for the market? Sorry, GP.
Yeah. I'm
No, go
saying
ahead.
maybe the weakness in Bitcoin is leading us to where the markets will be going post FOMC,
So
right? When
you're saying the market goes higher like Bitcoin has, or Bitcoin is leading us currently to what the market might do. So down 10%?
Yeah, it's possible, right?
Of
So
course. I mean,
everyone's waiting for it. So as soon as it comes, it's going to be piling on.
that's a standard pullback, right? That's a price correction would be 10%.
I don't want it to be 10% from here, because 10% from here is only retesting the breakout. When we talked about lockout rallies back in November,
Mm-hmm.
the lockout, I think we talked about 430, 440 on the Qs, right? Is where now we tagged 458. We got a 10% move down. That's back to where we were like 2 months ago. That to me isn't lockout, right?
Yep.
So for me, it would be, hey, let's push even higher here, closer to that like 470, 480 range, and then get a 10% correction back to this area, which, by the way, the Qs have been sideways since almost end of January.
Yeah, I think charts are kind of starting to really shape up nice. Like I think stuff's looking good.
Really, Nick, because if you read FinTwat, it's the beginning of the end again, just on some
I
new
mean,
consolidation.
my four kind of favorites are all like DraftKings is looking great. It's just basing up here at this in this next range. Um, DoorDash basically held the 20-day. I mean, and it's basing up there. Uber's doing the same thing. The moving averages are finally starting to really catch. I mean, at least the 20 days catching up. Or I don't know. There's the 50-day. I'm sorry. Um, I don't know. Look at like I mean, and then even like Amazon. Like Amazon looks. God, I don't know.
Amazon, Meta,
I like a lot of
Carvana,
the sideways stuff.
all these guys with the earnings have been just sideways since earning, right? Carvana's the same. It keeps testing the 76, getting to 81, 82, and then selling off. Meta keeps getting higher and then getting sold right back into earnings. It is it is
I
consistent
kind of
across the board.
I kind of anticipated this. Like I think this is what I would call like the post EPS drift, where like like Meta for example, like we gap up and then there's nothing really tradable in there. Like either you were long and you caught that pop and now you're just holding, or like there's no trade there. You know what I mean?
And there hasn't been one in a couple of months now, right? That's the thing, is like
Yeah, yeah.
earnings drifts technically are only a couple of weeks, most likely in the past, right? And that's free money and stuff. So we're obviously changing regimes. So you can see it now. Could be that you have 2.5 months of post earnings drift, and then the last couple of weeks into the next earnings, it's going to start to ramp up again, right? Whereas
Yeah.
people have been used to, you get 2 to 4 weeks of sideways, like a 3 weeks tide post earnings, and then it rips again. And every rip here continues to be sold, but not with
Every rip is being sold, every single one of them.
almost, I would say. Are you being sarcastic or are you
No,
agreeing?
no, no. I'm being serious. Like it'll be up and then it'll get sold. I mean,
Yeah. Look at
I'm
look at
I'm I'm
look
not
at Netflix,
expecting.
right? How many
Yeah,
times has Netflix tried to break out and get sold immediately, right? Like I believe on Friday Netflix opened at 627, finally cleared all the, and you're like, yes, finally it's good. Nope, immediate sell, and did not stop selling for the whole entire day. And even today, yesterday's move was given back within the first 8 minutes on 200,000 shares. It took 3 million shares to take it higher yesterday, but on 203,000 shares, they gave back essentially the entire move. So there's just no participation really up here for a lot of names.
yeah,
And you could say that they're waiting for FOMC, right, to see what they do. Or you could say that this is the new regime, which is drift sideways until earnings confirm, right? And so you're seeing it not just in Netflix, but Amazon, Meta, Carvana, Uber, Dash, Shop, right? Disney, all like you go by one. It's just like it's tight. Disney looks great, but when is Disney gonna go? right? It
in
keeps
50
inching
more
higher.
days.
Yeah, it keeps inching higher and then getting sold off, inching higher, getting sold off. But not, so this is it's all frustrating, but nothing looks terrible, right, Nick, to your point, which things look
Yeah.
good. The question has continued to be when, when do these actually start moving higher? And it could be FOMC, it could be earnings, could be, I don't know, Janet Yellen whispering sweet nothings in someone's ear. I have no clue when it's going to go, but it's all
That's
not
hot.
great. So like compared to like August, September 2023, where we weren't breaking out and then we sold off hardcore, right? Like Shop lost 50%, Roku lost 50%. That's not what's happening here. So they're still not letting people in. So
Yeah.
this, yeah, like they're forcing you to buy higher up here because we're just going to keep you in this really tight range for a really long time.
Well, I mentioned I like Google last week, and they gapped up. They're the past 2 days. Today they traded down some, but yeah, I mean Google popped almost back up to highs, and now it's
And
just
sold.
kind of elevated or hovering there in this gap region. So yeah, GP, I completely agree with what you're saying on it's been kind of interesting to watch some of these names sort of roller coaster, right? And some of them are kind of flat. And by roller coaster, I mean Google's up, or then they came down. Now they're back up, and it's the cycles are becoming tighter. But the release, or wider the base, higher in space, some of these names have gone sideways for months. Um,
Dude, look at Goldman. You got to be the most frustrated shareholder
yeah,
in Goldman. Holy.
yeah. Some of these names have gone sideways for months.
This is
And
that earnings candle was 12-1 or whatever that candle was 12-1. It's been 15 weeks, 14 weeks like that.
yeah,
Miserable.
yeah, 100%.
Meanwhile, you look at JPM and you're like, okay.
Everything's good. Everything's great.
So when your leader is leading, you're going to expect that the other names to follow, and that goes on my point that XLF is going to be the big reason these markets move higher, right? XLF, in my view, is built a 13-year base, broke out of that base in 2021, and then spent the next 2.5 years consolidating and retesting the top of this base. So when this takes over, I think it's 41 and change, takes out all-time highs. This is just getting started. So like Goldman going sideways here, I think is fantastic because you have all these names that you have, like JPM's leading, but all these names that are sitting within the XLF that are ready to bust higher to push the index higher, right? Or the ETF higher.
Mhm.
Like that, to me, I look at the XLF chart and all I can see is SPY when it reclaimed the double top breakdown from 2000 and 2008. It went up a little bit and then sideways for 2.5 years or 2 years. And then finally broke out in 2016, I think off the elections. And the rest has been history since, right? So
Nick, what do you do when you're frustrated with the trade? I know you shouldn't trade because if you're bored, like trading in and out because you're bored shouldn't be a reason to maybe change your thesis. But what do you do when you're frustrated with the trade? You just walk away from it, you just cut it loose? We might have lost Nick. GP, can you answer that one?
yeah,
Sorry.
so for me it would be yeah, just wait till it actually breaks out, right? It's the same concept as gold. We talked about gold for almost a year and a half, trying to break out of that all-time high, and then when it finally did, it's been fairly clean. But if you had taken one, two, three, four different attempts, you were feeling the pain because it was straight down afterwards, straight down afterwards. This time it didn't go straight down. It had a couple inside weeks and then went higher. So when it took out that high, if you got long there on a closing basis, on a weekly closing basis, then you're sitting in a better trade and you're not frustrated. So wait for it is what I would say. You can try to time it. I know that's where you can make better money, but you can also lose weeks on end, right? If you looked at Goldman on December, if you go back to the Goldman chart for a second,
Yep.
right? That weekly chart, that right into the pivot there on December 1st, right? Massive, massive boner bar up right into the pivot. And then you had like 3 really tight weeks, right? So you're like, okay, it should go now. And then you spent the next 11 weeks cursing it, right? Why hasn't it taken out 400? Why hasn't it taken out 400? In any other scenario, this would have been. But now if you wait for 400 to clear on a weekly closing basis or daily closing basis, whatever your time frame is, then you'll probably have less frustration.
Buy 380, sell 390.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like you got to wait for the confirmation, right? And it hasn't confirmed yet. So um, wait for the confirmation in a lot of these names because a lot of them are false. But that's the best part. They're not breaking down. They're just going sideways. And maybe it's distribution at the top of the range. Maybe that's what it is, and it all resolves down. But right now, it looks like healthy, consolidated, above the levels that I would need to see, especially in Goldman, right? Like that Goldman closing bar for December 1st was 380. And I think it's had maybe one every week that it's tried to close before 380, the next week it reverses it. So there hasn't been any confirmation, there hasn't been anything but just frustration. So you wait for it.
Yeah.
How about you? How would you handle it, Bags?
Um, it it depends how firm I am in my conviction of the company, or not just the company, but also the chart. Um, I've been right and I've been wrong on that. Right, I'll use roadblocks as a perfect example of being wrong. Um, and we've been waiting on roadblocks forever. And I don't know, when did I start my position? Was it like in, I don't know, somewhere around here? And it's been pretty much a nothing burger for months for me. I
Yep.
still believe in roadblocks long term. That's the reason why I'm still waiting. Um, but it's frustrating. I've mentioned numerous times my biggest challenge is selling, right? By just my thought process, I'm long term. I want to hold on to things that I see upside in for, years. So it can be hard. It can be a real challenge for me to flip on and off out of hold or buy or sell. So yeah, it can be frustrating. And I was more of asking you guys for what you do
Yeah.
to
Well,
help
just
to help me, right? And I've
just
been burnt.
wait.
I've had great success, right? I've also, on the flip side of that, I've had charts that have exploded to the upside, and I've sold way too early, right? Or I've you know bought the dip that kept on dipping. So it goes both ways. And for something that's kind of gone sideways and not done anything for months, Roblox is a perfect example of that for me. And again, it comes back down to, do I have faith in Roblox being higher in a year from now? Yeah, I think so. But I mean, I'm almost in it a year now, it seems, at least 6 months or so, and longer than 6 months, 9 months or so. And it can be frustrating. I try not to think about it, and um, I look for opportunities to buy when those come along, but I'm not going to keep buying the same levels over and over and over, right? So it makes it a challenge.
Yeah, especially when you're just seeing nonstop upside breakouts in chip names, right? Like NVIDIA and
Yeah,
SMCI and AMD. And then you're seeing all the retail names just one after the other just rocket, like Wingstop, like
yeah.
Costco, like Chipotle, like Shack. And you're like, okay, well, am I the thought that enters the head is like, is this just a cyclical trend, so I'm not participating, or is this a long-term issue, right?
We're all in it to make money, right? And at the end of the day, you want your holdings to provide some upside for you, and that doesn't mean the chart's going higher. I mean, you could play short, right? And your portfolio has increased in value. That's what we all want to see. And when you see things like, I mean, I made no bones about it. I hold a large stake in AMD, and Cookie said it last week. Like, I forgot who he was talking to, but I was tagged in the comment. Is you wish you had gone all in Nvidia now, don't you? And it was like, hell, I mean, I could have easily had 2/3 or 3/4 of my portfolio in AMD, and where would that have been as opposed to buying the roadblocks of the world, right? And yeah, it can be frustrating because you're seeing opportunity costs to some
Yeah,
go
I
down
think
the drain, but at the same time, you're still in it because this thing has gone sideways since what is that? February of 22. So this has gone sideways for 2 years, right?
no.
And this could break higher or lower at any given moment. And it's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't if you get out now, I guess.
Yeah, I think the thing that concerns me that continues to be at the top of my head is if this market does pull back, then things like Roblox,
Roblox are going to get slaughtered. Yeah.
yeah, and things like Tesla, right, that haven't participated. How Tesla usually operates in its own world, so but if the market's down 5% in a day, there's not much that's gonna, avert the trend.
Right.
So that continues to be the concern because as we're pumping and pumping and pumping, um, the things that aren't participating, the assumption would be that they get absolutely slaughtered if we have a 10% correction, like we have in 2023, right? From August to, or sorry, from July to October, things got murdered.
Yeah.
Roku got murdered, Shop got murdered. Lots of names that didn't really participate were in their bases,
Yeah.
got basically lost 40-50% in a matter of 3 months.
Nick, you back with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
How do you deal with something that's gone sideways? It doesn't have to be as long as Roblox, but what do you do?
Um, it's not so like it's not something I really have to bat like my trading style. It's not something I necessarily have to battle too much. Um, the only thing that I could say is if I allow trailing stops to get hit and I'm down to like either a runner size position or maybe even like smaller than that, um, if I really want to move that capital around, at a certain point, like what's the point of even holding a small position if it's like just it's not any meaningful size. But I try to let like the way I'm really trying to trade is allowing like my four biggest holdings to kind of be my biggest positions, and then my other kind of like let's just say 5 to 12 positions are typically a lot smaller and more in the what I call trend trades, not like a position trade.
Mhm.
So I don't have room for dead money in my like business plan per se.
I like that.
I think that if I was like a long-term investor and I was like let's say a Roblox situation where I I'm not saying this, but I'm just saying, like, let's say you were like really digging apart the chart and you're like, holy fuck, this is being massively accumulated for whatever reason you have, like your conviction's building. So to GP's point though, like just wait till it goes. Like
I love
for
that.
the
I
for the
don't have
individual
room for
investor,
dead money in my business plan.
yeah.
Yeah. But if we look at the AMD example, right? Um, if you accumulated between 2009 and 2016, 7 years it went sideways for the most part, right? It went from 2
Yeah.
to 10, back to 2 or 150 or whatever it was, and then it finally broke out, right? And if you were not patient enough or sold, which is what most likely happened as soon as you bought in the 1 to 5 range, you probably sold in the 45s at the latest, I would say. There's not too many people probably holding from that time frame, but it all really depends on your time frame because if you had held that AMD
Yeah.
position from there, and you really believe the stock and its conviction is your basis, then you are up 100x, right? On AMD from there.
Time frame.
Yeah.
Totally. I agree with you. I agree.
So I think it's all about what kind of investor you want to be, what kind of person you like, right? Like if you're thinking about it, hey, um, I want to leave my kids something, right? And this is one of those companies that I find to be going to be around for a long time. You build and you build and you build. So when it does play out to your thesis, or if it does play out to your thesis, you're able to pass down these stocks to your kids when you're older, right? Or when you're not around and they have these cost bases, basically they get stepped up to zero, but they have these monster positions that they can do anything with now. So
Yeah.
it really depends on how much of a time frame. Like as your business plan as a trader, I get it. That makes total sense. But as an investor,
Yeah. Trader, investor, and time frame.
right? And same thing with NVIDIA, right? If you had NVIDIA went sideways for how long? Right?
How many times has it gone sideways for how long?
Yeah. NVIDIA went nowhere from 2000 to 2016.
I mean, I would say like an investor's probably worst enemy is like the shiny object syndrome, like yeah, totally. Like if you're building a long-term position and like you're you're gonna be in these periods where you're gonna have to sit.
It is hard, Nick. A shiny thing syndrome is real.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, we all have it.
it's real.
Yeah, and people are right. The macro doomers, the crash talkers are loud, especially these days. Which is funny because they were wrong all of 2023 and most of 2024, and yet they seem to be even more loud. Um, but if you're reading, it's not just like the FinTwits I'm talking about like conglomerate news outlets, right? And so if you're not a person who's looking at charts and you're just like, I like NVIDIA, I want to be long, you can get shaken out by these things if you were holding NVIDIA while you saw Tesla go 20x, right? And right now you're seeing NVIDIA go 20x and Tesla go sideways. So um, it really depends on your views on things. But the shiny thing syndrome is definitely up and center for most people on most days.
Yeah, there's nothing I like. I hate being in a position when like something else is just freaking on a tear.
Yeah, like dude, I you don't have to tell me, right? I have a Netflix position. It was the first one to bottom, right? Like literally the first one to bottom in May 2022. I think some of the cheapest shares I got were around 168 or 164 in Netflix. And while it's led the market out since May 2022, while everyone was talking about the markets are going to crash another 40, 50, 60%, Netflix has been showing. And now, while everything is pumping higher, Netflix is not doing it anymore. And you're like, am I?
It is this post EPS drift, I'm telling you, is like I think it plays perfectly into your lockout rally idea because like there's no trade in post EPS drift. Like
Which is
unless you
unheard of.
were what's that?
Which to me is unheard of. We haven't had that in a really long time. The last time I remember
Sure.
having like no follow through on post EPS drift is probably like 2011 to 13, right? Where markets were potentially in a recession, markets were potentially at a triple top high or whatever. So there was a lot of sort of what's it called? The walls of worry, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's been well over a decade since we've seen it, and it's universal. Like unless you're chips, chips are just a different story because it's the hottest sector on the planet right now. Um, but almost everything else isn't getting the same kind of follow through, right, that you would have expected in other time frames, right? Like when you look at Netflix, I'll give you the Netflix example because it's something I'm telling you from how I feel, right? Holding it is like, am I just missing the forest for the tree, so to speak? But this stock was the first to bottom, and it has yet to take out all-time highs when fundamentally every single metric has improved and reaccelerated. If you're looking at a chart perspective, there's literally no volume profile to stop this from taking out all-time highs. Yet we're still here week after week rejecting every single move higher, right? And you're like, is this the double top, right? Is this the mean reversion double top? So you start thinking technically and all this stuff. So yeah, totally get it. It's the it's hard to always stay in the game. And I'm like, you know what? There's not a single tech besides it not breaking out, there's not a single technical thing that's broken yet. So if and when it breaks, handle it then. Might have to give back 10% of the price here, but I'm okay with that. Just giving a real world
Yeah.
example, right?
Yeah. We got any charts? Hi, Vanessa. Anybody want some charts in the chat? You guys want to look at anything in particular?
Let's talk a little macro. How about that?
Oh, okay.
Charts macro, not macro
Oh,
macro.
I was getting ready to say there will be no rate cuts from the Fed. They're going to be data dependent and watch and see big nothing burger FOMC. That's where I was going to go, but
Yeah, dude, FOMC hasn't mattered in so long. So, unless there's a surprise of some sort, like a surprise rate hike or a surprise rate cut, which Jay Powell has not done. This is the guy who told us in November 2021 that he's going to start QT and raise rates in November. We're going to be very aggressive about it. But you know when he finally did it? It was March. Right? Like, and then he only did a quarter basis point and then called it transitory. Um, so I don't imagine he's going to surprise in any shape or form, unless it was a massive uptick in inflation, and there wasn't, right? You're going to have ups and downs here. What I don't get is I was looking at the CPI report, and I don't understand how natural gas, piped gas on the CPI has continued to increase month after month, 2 months in a row, when nat gas is literally down 50% in 2 months.
got me, boss.
Yeah, I don't know either. So like you're gonna have these gyrations, right? Like look at nat gas. It looks like it's about to fall off another cliff, and yet
It
Now
totally looks like it's ready for another leg down.
it does to me. And
Completely.
I don't know how you can go any lower, but obviously you can. Um, and if you look at the CPI report, it was up 2% in February, and I think it was up 0.6% in sorry, 2% in January and 0.6% in February. It's like so you're telling me it's the utility companies keeping prices high while their actual commodity is getting obliterated. Okay. But so like when I was talking about macro versus charts, I was like, so looking at like TLT, looking at junk bonds, looking at LQD, HYG, just wondering what your opinions are on these charts. I have mine, obviously.
I still think we're ultimately going higher. I think I look at the 10-year a lot. I mean, it doesn't look like it. Can it go higher? Yes, but it's at a spot where I think it's going to start drifting lower. And by going lower, that doesn't mean it's going down to 2.5% or something crazy. I think we're going to be in around a 3.5% interest rate for the 10-year eventually. So ultimately, that would be good for equities. And as you mentioned with your LQD and junk, right? They're consolidating for a move, just like we've been waiting over on all these other consolidations, right?
Yeah.
Nick?
Yeah, I agree. I think I mean, I'm in the camp that we're moving higher. I was going to actually ask about XLE and what your guys' thoughts were on XLE because I don't, I mean, on the daily and the weekly chart, like
We didn't get
I don't
those
know.
lower
I love
price
it.
targets, did we, Nick? We didn't get 70.
No, no.
No, it's held pretty well, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yes. I've stopped being so negative everything energy. I think
I mean,
XLE looks better
I
than
think,
OIH, but OIH is I mean, for what is that, 7 straight weeks has done nothing but power higher. Um,
I'm not
so
sure why XLE is almost back to like the last couple year like all-time high, right? Last couple
yeah,
years.
yeah,
While oil is still at 80, right?
right.
Or 82. So you can't fight the price action. Ultimately, they're buying it and they're pumping it. So but oil is still, I think to this day, still making lower highs on a weekly basis. So like oil's been sideways pretty much since November 2022.
Yeah, oil doesn't look great,
Why
but
is XLE moving higher, right? Like, are these companies making more profit all of a sudden? No, it's just been the same. It's been the same price of oil,
it's
right? You
been the
have your
same shit. That's a good question.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty damn bullish. It's just kind of like a timing thing. I think it's a time to be setting alerts, and staying on your toes. I don't think it's a time to be in like, max position size or anything like that. Just be small and nimble. Just kind of how I am personally positioned as well. So,
yeah, and I think everyone's
I mean,
waiting
obviously,
for the broadening, right? When are other things going to start to participate? Are they going to start to participate? Is the better question.
Are they? That's a great, yeah. Yeah. Andrew says he brought some bros, some Dutch bros. So it's another chart that's gone sideways for seems for a while.
In May, it'll be 2 years.
Yep.
Ever since, look at that nasty red bar. We've been essentially building a base in that nasty red bar.
Nick, you can get you some Dutch bros out there in Colorado. I don't know if they have them in your home state, but they definitely have them in Colorado. And those things were always hopping. Every time I drove by one, they were always.
Why? It's just coffee, right? What is it?
It is. Well, one thing Dutch Bros does is they know your order, like from the jump. They're ready to give you what you usually order, like at the drop of a hat. They've done some really good job with their customer relationship management. And yeah, if you're in their ecosystem, they got you.
God, their website is god awful.
I haven't been to the website, so I can't.
I just pulled
that.
it up and it's horrendous.
So there you go.
I'm not a coffee drinker, so appreciate it.
They have T2.
They have protein coffees.
Sycuron
Maybe
says
I'll stop.
Lyft, please. Yeah, we can look at Lyft. Nick, you love some Uber. What about Lyft?
I like it a lot here. I think I think it's shaping up, and I think it looks great.
Big old round, juicy bottom there.
Yeah, I mean, depending on your style, you're definitely either adding kind of like in here off of the 20-day or through 20, but it's kind of yeah, big old roundy bottom. I like it. I like it a lot. I think your risk here too, just generally, you could have a stop in the 14 range in the gap, and then like probably like another one like around $10 is where I would probably have like if I wanted to have kind of if I wanted to be in the position long term, that's kind of where I'd be looking to say, hey, I'm wrong on this thing.
Anything
Yeah.
you guys are looking to add? New? Any new that you like out there? I mean, I'll go first. If you
You
guys
mean in terms of like new as in it's like setting up right now, or new as in like something like we're trading something entirely new?
either one.
I can give you a few names.
I mean, again, I think DraftKings is one of the better looking setups on the daily right now. Things setting up to go.
Yeah, I like DraftKings a lot.
Um, what was the other one I was looking at?
I've been paying very close attention to Pfizer. GP's talked me into Pfizer, I think. So I've been paying close attention to that.
Should we go through should we go through our picks? When do we clear those out, by the way?
At the end of the month.
End of the month. Okay, we'll do it then. Yep.
Yep. We can talk about those too.
Yeah.
Moderna is looking pretty good too.
Which one?
Moderna,
Yeah.
mRNA. I mean, it'll move with Pfizer, but like I like how it's curling. I mean, ultimately, I don't like that the 200-day moving average is still trending down, but I like how price is kind of like curling right here and looks like it could rip higher. I mean, it's got if it runs here, I mean, it's got a lot of room to run. It's like an easy
Yeah.
50, 60 point run.
We got to have Cookie on too next week. So
Okay.
I'll set up a time. I'll email you guys about getting with
Yeah.
Cookie.
I think that when you're talking about Pfizer, I think it's one of the best and kind of low risk, long term kind of and you're getting paid to hold it personally.
Yeah.
It's a little over 6% on dividend, and if it breaks down here, you'll know when to get out, right? It's pretty clearly
Very clear. Yep. Very clear.
and if it doesn't, then you collect your 6% dividend and watch this thing grind higher over the next decade. This is not a 5-month position. This is opportunity to just be long a pretty secure asset near the lows with a decent dividend, right?
That's correct. That is correct.
And names like these guys don't go like bananas. They go to the top of ranges, they go to the bottom of ranges, right? So like Altria Group is another one, back down to like the 40s and it popped back up. But I got a couple names on my list if you want me to share.
Go.
So my brother actually
Yeah.
shared these with me yesterday. Shout out to him. If you take a look at NNOX,
NNOX.
yes.
Yeah, it's been looking good. They keep popping
Very,
up on my
very
watch
nice
list.
consolidation, some pretty high accumulation going on here. I think it might be a SPAC or whatever, but
Somebody asked
this
me about
one,
that not long ago.
yeah. So this one looks interesting, and earnings comes up next week or 2 weeks from now. No, next week, and no, 2 weeks from now. And then the other one is RXRX.
RXRX, Recursion Pharmaceuticals.
I thought
What do
these
you
were both interesting charts.
what makes RXRX interesting to you?
Same. Look at the amount of volume that came in on July 2023, right? And you had this kind of low volume drift down. And every time we got the kind of the drift down, we got some heavy accumulation. We've seen a bit of selling up here, but it looks like it's in the top of the base, like almost every other chart. And like I like the way it's looking. I like the way it's turning. On a weekly, on a monthly, it looks pretty kind of tight as well. So I like this as well. These are all speculative names though, right? Just on radars, no position whatsoever. Just came across them yesterday. I thought that was definitely interesting.
Yeah, NNOX is definitely interesting to me.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, that's a massive volume.
Yeah. And then you also have names like STLA.
Stellantis?
Beast.
Oh
What?
wow. I
Wow.
didn't know that thing was such a run.
Wow.
You.
They've got cars on every lot for like forever. They can't sell them fast enough. Like they, anyway,
Here's another one. P car.
that's a blast from the past.
Look at this beast.
Holy cow.
Oh, P
What
car.
in the hell?
And then you have the old like this. This to me is the health of the economy, right? This name is showing you the health of this economy. Caterpillar. Look at this move in Caterpillar over the last 4 or 5 months.
God damn, what a beast ass run. DE
Bags
being
you
a
there?
turd.
Bags you alive?
What, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Caterpillar, CAT.
TS.
Look at this move over the last 4 months.
It's pretty strong. Pretty good. How's my fresh doing? Not so fresh. Stunk pits.
My
The other one that
lemonade
looks
might be
the other one that
AP,
looks
right.
you breaking out there, GP. There's 83.
there you go, buddy.
Still
Target
got a
acquired.
better part of a week.
Yes, I think it needs rest though now, but that was an insane call, bottom call. I'm surprised it worked.
Nick got his 7 hundo 2 weeks ago, as we pointed out, and on the door knocking at 7 hundo again.
You know what's another one that looks really, really good that no one really talks about?
In light
Royal Royal Caribbean.
RCL.
Look at
all
this
those
thing.
were looking crazy.
Dude, look at this
Yeah.
thing. It's like COVID didn't happen.
It's totally like COVID didn't happen. I've had several friends recently go on cruises, and um, well, a couple of them had never been on cruises before, and they just couldn't have enough good things to say about their experience.
Really?
It's just anecdotally. I have never cruised,
Nor
but
have I.
I just thought that was interesting.
I've never been on a cruise.
What about you, Nick? You're a cruiser?
I am not. I don't get it. I think like like the ones like up along like the Alaskan coast up there.
Mm,
Like that sounds cool. Like if like there's crazy kind of views and whatnot, but to just hop on a boat and go from island to island doesn't sound appealing to me.
yeah. My thing is just being, you know, on a boat in the middle of the water. It's not my.
Yeah,
I like to be able to see the land, know that I can
yeah.
swim to it.
I think my thing is like my dislike of people. I'm just joking.
Touche.
Um, and then like consolidate it into this one big giant boat, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Touche. What's the other cruise lines doing? What was there? Norwegian,
CCL,
Norwegian,
not so good,
NCLH, not so
not
good.
so good,
CCL, Carnival, right?
not so good.
Not so good. Wow. Why is Royal just, huh?
Because their management rocks, right? This is the difference when you
Yeah,
see charts.
I mean, obviously that's got a difference.
Every other one looks like BA, right? Like Boeing, they all just look like
Oh,
garbage.
do we want to talk about Boeing tonight?
Sure, let's do
We've
it.
got a couple minutes.
It's the
Look at
short I
this.
should have taken instead of
Look
CVX.
at yeah, you were bragging about I'm going to take that. You should have.
I tried to get cute.
Generations of holders are going to be so salty when this breaks.
Yeah, I did. But if we get to 112 and we hold, it's probably a great, great buying opportunity.
Why 112? I got like 115. Oh,
Um,
no, you're right.
it's 112.
130. We can fudge it a little bit.
Look at it's 113.89 or
Yep. That's the one.
113.02.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Things tend to overshoot, so I said 112, but yeah.
Fair enough.
And I think it goes back to the daily chart from that area from COVID lows.
Yep. It does. GP, Boeing. I don't know if we talked about this. Boeing was what really started us communicating in 2020. Do you remember that?
I do not. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
What
fine.
what was the my epic short?
No, no, no. It was somewhere around here, somewhere around April, May.
Oh, okay.
And this was when you were like, everything is going higher. And me, like most of the people, were a little bit skeptical before that. And I don't know if I'd posted a Boeing chart or you posted a Boeing chart, and we just chit chatted a while. And I was like, hey, this guy's not a complete jackass. And from then on, we've been like peanut butter and flaxseed.
Yes, that's exactly the combination I was thinking of.
Anyway,
Yeah, I remember that call on March. Oh, that was such a everyone talks about it like they knew it now, but there weren't very
no,
many
there weren't
people
very many.
who
I
called
mean,
that.
yeah, I was selling puts to get long in quite a few names, and I still have a lot of those shares that I sold puts against or sold puts to get long. And
Yeah, which
yeah,
sucks because you could have just been long the shares.
yeah, I could have just been on the shares. But hey, I made a little I made some money for my weight, right?
Yeah,
So it's all
yeah, no. I like that was one of the most I think the only person who remotely was on the same page as me was Jim Rowe on David H or whatever his name is. You guys there?
yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. So, There were definitely not many people who were in the camp that were going so much higher. Did I think what happened was going to happen? No,
No.
um, but knew that we were at the tail end of whatever was happening.
What's happening now?
And
Wonder.
so like I think I talked about it even in June and October, right, of 2022. We're going higher, and we've been sideways, and the news is inherently worse, and we can't get lower, so we are going higher. In the absence of sellers, the move is to the upside. And then we talked about the lockout rally in November. So we're still in that, like, even shop as terrible as it's been, before that lockout rally conversation, shop was at 61. It's still 20% above where it was, right? So you're still not getting in. You might not be getting in at 61, but you're still having to pay premium from November. I think it should be interesting. I personally think these markets are going much higher, and I think it's led by banks. And the concern with me always is the last sector to ever participate in full bull market moves are our financials.
So we might be coming to we might be grinding to a to an end sometime.
I don't think it's in the next 6 months. I
No, no,
mean, like,
no. Right.
they're the last sector to participate, and after 2 years of consolidation, they're not going to just go up for a month and turn around, right? So
True that.
I think the leg higher is multiple years here. Um, and you just gotta wait for it.
Nick's waiting for it. Nick likes everything higher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same camp as GP. I think we're just we're start stopping at this point.
Just
Yeah,
biding the
and
time.
the fun part will be all the people who will be like, "Oh yeah, see, I told you we're gonna correct," and it's a correction from like 500 down to 450, and you're like, "Yeah, good job."
Yeah, totally. Why buck the trend?
Yeah, watch the FOMC raise rates tomorrow and completely slap me in the face. But
Well,
the FOMC has not mattered in quite some time now, and that's exactly what you want from the markets. You don't want the FOMC to matter. All right, like
we
if you look at the 10-year, right? We were talking about 10 years bags. Um, the 10-year was higher in September FOMC and October FOMC than it is currently now. The markets have done whatever they wanted to anyway.
and with that we've bumped up on time.
Nice.
Thanks for jumping on, guys, and adjusting a day. I promise we'll try to get back to a consistent Monday schedule at some point, but doesn't matter. Family time is what's important, and having fun and living our lives to the fullest. So, Nick, enjoy your time out in Colorado.
Yeah, especially when the
Um,
markets are doing jack and
yes, yeah, especially when the markets aren't doing anything.
and
I'll just some
sorry,
housekeeping.
bags.
Yeah, that's okay. Just some housekeeping notes. I'll connect offline with you guys about setting up our live with Cookie. It normally is during market. So maybe one day next week we'll do a noonish, 11 a.m. ish. That's Eastern time, Nick. Pod with the old Cookster for our quarterly check-in with him. But other than that, that's all I got. GP, you're about to say something?
Yeah, just if you guys are around, anyone listening, I'll be doing a Twitter Spaces at 5 p.m. tomorrow with David and Short Seller and Blonde Broker.
Nice.
So we'll be chit chatting about the markets with a bigger audience if anyone wants to join and different perspectives. So
I'll do my best to try to make that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for everybody for hopping on and listening to us wax poetic about the markets. We'll see you guys online somewhere tomorrow. And let's go, Jay Powell. Let's do